am statements. I am a soccer player. I am a tennis player. And of course, it comes from a place of strength because they love the sport and they're passionate about it. But let's just be mindful of what else they are and actually remind our children they are a child. They are a valuable young transitional human being. And they're definitely not mini adults. Because if children were mini adults, what's the point of childhood? So again, it's a language thing around expecting adult behaviors or adult actions from a child. They're children.
Yeah, and just placing that identity can be very dangerous, like you touched on earlier, when uncertainty comes, or maybe you get injured and you're like, "Well, what do I do now? I'm a soccer
Mm,
player. What's my identity now?" And it's just like
yeah.
flooring, you know? Have
Mhm.
you experienced that with any of the professional ladies that you've worked with?
Yeah, I definitely have, and certainly it's a changing landscape, and more of the athletes, the professional soccer players that I've been working with over the last couple of years, the female players into our professional league here in the UK, are starting to recognize that beyond the badge, they are functioning human beings. And when the athletes that I've worked with at its best, the athletes who have had a stable sense of self away from the game, so they've had other interests or they've had a sense of what they want to do when they finish football, and we've had those
Mm.
conversations that always start with the end in mind. Never be afraid to have the conversation of when soccer ends for you, whether it's 6 months, 6 decades, it's going to end, and that's okay, but have the conversation early. And those players that do actually don't suffer from the mental health damage and consequences in a negative way often when they transition out of the game or they transition away from the game due to injury or due to other circumstances. Uh, I've certainly also seen the opposite, the flip side of the coin, in players that place all their eggs in one basket. That's a very English saying, but um, it basically means that a player that places everything in their life, their happiness, success, everything on whether they make it as a professional soccer player or not, and invariably they don't. And actually it leaves them feeling, I've heard words such as I'm feeling empty,